felt very fortunate that he fell to where he fell, honestly. We felt that way on that day, and he's done nothing to disprove that. Every day he's been a member of the organization.
Why today? Was there any consideration for the road trip that you were just on?
Yeah, we thought about the road trip a little bit. There was really no right answer to when the day was going to be. Felt like doing it at home kind of made some sense to us. There was no real science. I wouldn't read into the scientific nature of the decision, but that's just kind of how it fell. And we felt like doing it when we first got back from our road trip was the right thing to do.
Can you just go through his progress this year? What you saw as he made his way up from AA to AAA down here?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. He's basically been the same player since the second he signed in the organization. He did this right out of the chute, even at the lower levels. And I know 2020 kind of cut short a season for us, and so we only saw him at the alt site, and then 2021 got wiped out completely. Even though in the first 15 games that he played, he was off to a great start. He's just very driven, motivated. The process that he undertakes for himself. You guys saw him last year scouting games when he was hurt. He was there every day. That speaks to, I think, how he thinks about the game. Now we get to go watch him play. He's an exciting player, so he brings a lot to the table. And fits right in with the group that we have here right now. A lot of dynamic players that are doing some stuff on the field. That's good to see, and I think he'll just add to that.
Begs the question, though. Now what? You have a luxury of riches.
Yeah, I don't know that we ever feel like that's the case. We need to have a lot of really good players to play in this league and in this division, and hopefully we're starting to see that. We still have a ways to go.
For people that have seen clips of him play but maybe haven't seen him play every day, can you describe his game? What kind of players taking the field tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he's a dynamic player on both sides of the ball. He's got a fantastic approach to the plate. He knows the strike zone. That's always a good thing for a young player. I'm sure he'll get tested at this level. Usually they don't tend to pitch around the guy hitting eighth and the new guy coming up. So he'll probably get challenged a little bit, which would be good. Get some pitches to hit. But he has a really good idea of the strike zone. He's got some pop for a little guy. We have some younger, smaller players on our team that have some surprising pop, and that's good. I think we tended to draft some of those guys over the years. And in the outfield, he fits right in with the group that we have out there. I'm hopeful that in the course of the next 12 months that we could have one of the better defensive outfields, not just center field, outfields in baseball between the three spots.
How do you manage those expectations? What do you hope to see? And obviously it's a process, but how's that process for you to manage those expectations?
Yeah, I think the expectations should be, realistic for any young player. Nick and I have had this conversation a lot during the course of this year. Young players, young hitters come up in this league. It is the most challenging jump to go from the minor leagues to the big leagues and play every day as a position player. So the results are not, I wouldn't get too worked up on the results in the first 40 or so games that he ends up playing here. I think that's part of the reason we brought him up this year. I obviously didn't have to. We had three really good outfielders playing on an everyday basis now. We felt strongly that we wanted him to come up and sort of rip this Band-Aid off this year for obvious reasons, both this year and going into next.
You think that will give kind of an advantage going into next year, having had some experience?
I would hope so. I would hope that playing in this environment the way we're playing right now, competing night after night after night, it's kind of what we hoped this season was going to become. And having these young players not learn through the environment of last year, which was not a learning environment, this to me is a learning environment. We are in games where a mistake costs you a game or a good play wins you a game, and those are the things we want these guys to figure out. And yes, I would imagine that having this experience up here, does it change maybe what the pressures might be coming into next year if it makes the team coming out of spring training or any of these guys? Maybe not. This new season tends to create a little bit of a different dynamic sometimes, but there'll be something to fall back on. And we've been around a lot of young players that have come up in their first 100 at-bats and really struggled to go on and be very good players. And there's a reason for that. And I think the best use those experiences to take their game to a different place.
How does competition for playing time in the outfield factor into all of this in the evaluation process?
There should be plenty of at-bats. We have the DH now. I think if we were playing in the old rules, it would have been a little more complicated. I think there'll be some opportunity to get some DH at-bats with these guys. We play 28 games, I think, in 28 days with a doubleheader in LA. We have very few off days remaining. Guys are going to need days down, just for that reason alone, which I think is going to create plenty of opportunity for everybody to play. Corbin's played more games than he's ever played before. It's the longest season he's ever played before. So him playing 7 days a week is probably not realistic either. And so that's naturally going to give guys plenty of opportunity, in my opinion.
Mike, which corner do you see him fitting in?
It doesn't matter. He can play all three.
Mike, you had mentioned a few weeks back that there were some areas that you wanted him to kind of work on, maybe fine tune before the call-up. Can you share what some of those might have been?
Yeah, I mean, left field specifically. Left field is a kind of a position we hadn't really put him in a lot over the course of, usually what we do is we take a young outfielder and we put him in center. They play center forever, and then we move them over to right, and then they play some right, some center, and then, sometimes and they'll end up migrating to all three. That was Varshaw's playing great out in right field. Varshaw will probably play some center. McCarthy's been unbelievable for us, and Alec Thomas is, probably one of the best center fielders in all of baseball. And so Corbin's going to have to move around. They'll all probably move around a little bit, save for Alec, I would bet. And so that may necessitate left and right. The angle's just coming off are a little bit different, and he's missed a lot of time, both in 2020, because we weren't playing real games in 2020. If you go, Josh Barfield and Josh Rowich were playing for us in 2020, and believe it or not, and 2021 he got very few reps at all, if at all. So it was just more about making sure that he was most prepared for success, knowing that success wasn't guaranteed.
Seems like the team's viewpoint on the traditional roles, right versus left, with arm strength, don't factor in as big as they might have in years past.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a 50-50 call. We'd still choose the arm in right field. But yeah, I would say that's a fair assessment.
Is this more the style of baseball you want to see from this team?
As opposed to hitting 3-run bombs all the time? No, I would take the 3-run bomb. I'm just kidding. It's an exciting brand of baseball. I think, with the players that we have right now on our roster, these are the skills that they bring. This is, as you can see, I think there's a pattern here emerged from the players that we have drafted, from Dalton to Alec to Corbin to Jake McCarthy to, you've seen, this is not a secret. We have prioritized speed and athleticism with a lot of our higher picks with our position players. Drew Jones would be another one. Lawler fits into that category. It's something that we feel like is going to translate at this level. I think when you get a group of them, that's the way our team looks right now for sure, because there's multiple guys in our lineup that all do those things. I think as the game moves on, maybe with some of the new rules that come in, with the shifting or other things that could happen down the road, I do think that having a dynamic team is a way for us to not have the lineup of 7 sluggers in the lineup and still be able to go out there and post the number of runs we did this weekend in Chicago and go out and have a good weekend.
Is this lineup assembly possibly bridge to fans who grew up watching like the 1980s Cardinals and stuff?
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. With the depending on how the game continues to evolve, I think. Stolen bases have definitely gone a little bit more by the wayside, but I think if you look at our aggregate base running numbers over the course of the year, we're in a pretty good spot there relative to the league. And I think that's a difference maker. I think that's a skill we had even with some of our better slugging teams in like 17 and 18. We were really good at that, and I think that's an advantage if you can do that better than your competition. I know it doesn't always show up necessarily, but it can show up getting those extra bases. And I think if that's something that we become, I would be very happy with that as a skill for our baseball team.
Hey guys, we gotta get everybody over to the interview room for